Let me start a new one. Let's save that. And guys, let's go through. Let's just go. I'm going to go through quickly. So guys, for the rest of class, if you guys just want to kick back and watch, we got the recording going here. Let's put all these together here. Let's put all three of these together. See how we can see how this all works together here, guys. So here we go. Let's grab some switches. Switch 1, switch 2. Let's grab a router. Let's use this 1941 router. It's a little newer than the 1841. Let's set that up. And let's grab a couple hosts here. And then let's do this. I want to write down. Let's write down our VLANs. And let's do 100 is our clients. 200 is our guests. 66 is our parking lot. Let's do 999 is our native. So those are VLANs. We're going to set those guys up here. Those are VLANs. And let's also, while I'm here, let's write down our sub interfaces. D01.100 is going to be 192.168.1.1. And actually, guys, I'm pulling this from, so here we're going to subnet just one address. We're not going to use two addresses. So I need the first usable address as my default gateway. So on this one, our network is here. So our first usable address is 1.1. And then on this one, our network, our second subnet is there. Our first usable is 129, so that would be our default gateway. So let's put that in there. D0, and that's for our other sub interface there, 192.168.1.129. And guys, let me just put /25, just so we know we're doing a /25 on these guys. Okay, guys, hopefully you're following here with me. Let's start with this. Let's first make the VLANs on switches. And then once we have the VLANs up and running, we can create the trunk or the ether channel in between, and then we can create the trunk to the router. So let's go into, guys, I'm not going to do any of the other setup like the security and stuff. I'm just going to go in and quickly set this up. So VLAN 100, name that clients. VLAN 200, name that guests. VLAN 300, oh, nope, we don't need 300, we need 666. Name that parking lot. And then VLAN 999. Let's name that native. That's our native, of course. Oops. So there's our VLANs. There's all of our VLANs on switch 1. And then let me do this. Let's just make that just so we can see it there. On S1. So we have all the VLANs created on S1. And let's do this now. Let's make a 4-port ether channel from S1 S2. And I'm not gonna connect these guys up yet. I'm gonna set this up here before we even connect them in, and then we'll cable everything up. So let's grab the interface range F0/1 to 4. Let's grab our first four ports. Switch port mode trunk. I want them to be trunking because, guys, this is what's going to connect our two switches here. Switch port trunk. Let's set the native VLAN. Oops. Native VLAN 999. I forgot the VLAN in there. switch port trunk allowed VLAN. So let's set which VLANs can now traverse or cross over this trunk. Well, we want to have 100, 200, and 999. We don't want our parking lot, right, guys? For security, we don't want our parking lot to travel across there. So there's that. So guys, I've set ports 1 through 4 as trunks. I've set their native VLAN, and I've told them which VLANs are allowed. Now let's set up an ether channel here. So that's channel group, and this is the first one. And guys, this could be channel group 2, 5, whatever, but this is channel group 1. And when I do that, if I do mode, here is where I get to pick either PAGP or LACP. Let's just do LACP for these. Make it a little easy. Channel group 1 mode active. And then, as we can see, it creates port channel 1. Just for fun, let's just make sure. Let's do a no show to make sure it's turned on. Now, while we are here, you guys, let's also set the trunk to the router. S1 is going to have a connection going to the router. Let me make this one R1. So for this, let's just we'll set one of the gigabit. Let's set gigabit 01 to go to the router, because it's going to go to the gigabit 01 on the router. So let's just keep them together. So let me exit out of there. Let's get into interface gigabit 1 on our switch on S1. And let's set the same thing, guys. We're going to make a switch port mode trunk. We're going to make a switch port trunk native VLAN 999. And we're going to tell it, well, these can travel up the trunk to the router. So I'm going to use the up arrows. Hopefully that'll make my life a little easier. Switch port mode trunk. Switch port trunk native VLAN 999. And switch port trunk allowed. Oh, did I miss it? Allowed VLAN 100, 200, and 999. Okay, guys. So there's switch 1. I think switch 1's ready to roll. Let me close it down. Now let's do the same thing on 2, except we don't need a trunk to the router. We just need to worry about this ether channels trunk here and our VLANs. So guys, let's do that. So configure terminal, VLAN 100, name clients, VLAN 200, not 2000, name guests, VLAN 666, name is parking lot, and then VLAN 99, name is native. So there's our VLANs. Let's now tackle that trunk and that ether channel. Let's exit that. Go interface range F0/1 to 4. We want those first 4 ports. Hopefully you guys are still seeing me there. I saw a little hiccup there, but looks like I'm still here. So hopefully you guys are still with me. So, all right, guys, so interface range 1 to 4. Let's set that as switch port mode trunk. Let's tell it to switch port trunk. Hopefully you're hearing me too, Connor. Hopefully you guys are hearing me. Switch port trunk, native VLAN 999. Switch port trunk allowed VLAN 100, 200, and 999. So there we go. We've set up the trunking part of those 4. Now let's put it in an ether channel, and we should match this with what our other one was. So channel group 1 mode active. And there we go. Now we've got a trunk set up in between our 2 switches. I think all of our VLANs are there. Fingers crossed here, guys. Let's go port 1 to 1, port 2 to 2, port 3 to port 3. Port 4 to port 4. And let's fast forward through this just a little bit. Let's see if it goes. And yes, that is always good when we got nice green triangles there. So we've got a nice ether channel set up in between our 2 switches. It's always nice. Let's get this trunk to the router now. We said we did that on Gigabit Ethernet 01. And let's plug it into Gigabit Ethernet 01 there. You guys will notice this doesn't come on yet. Especially with routers, we need to go in and do a no shutdown. Guys, let's plug in our hosts here real quick, and let's just plug it into the last port of each one. And while we're here, you guys, let's go into that port. That was port 24 that I did. Let's get into interface 24, and let's just set that as switch port mode access. That's an access port because it's going to a host. And let's also go switch port access, and let's put that on VLAN 100. So there's for VLAN 100. Exit out of that. Let's go back over here to 2. Let's do the same thing we just did. Go to interface F024. Let's go to port 24. Switch port mode access. Which, guys, also know, if you set it to access, you also disable trunking. So in a way, this is a security thing. Whenever you set something to access mode, you turn off trunking, and that's a recommended thing to do. So that's why when you put when you put stuff in the parking lot, that's why you set it as an access mode, and then you disable it. That's making it double secure. So switch port access, and that's on VLAN 100 as well. All right, let's fast forward through that. Looks like that's going there, you guys. Okay, so the last thing we've got to do, let's get this router on the stick part set up. Get the router on the stick part set up, and then we'll do this DHCP. And we'll call it a day after that. So let's go into the router. Now, as you can see, our router is off, or our interface is off until we come in and turn it on. So let's go in and turn that guy on. That's Gigabit 1. Do a no shut, and then as you can see, we got some action there. While we're here, let's get these sub interfaces. So interface Gigabit 1 dot, just do 100 to match our VLANs. Encapsulation .1Q, and then the VLAN number. And then, guys, here's the important part. Let's get the IP address, 192.168.1.255.255.255. Here's the important part. It's a /25. Remember, that means it's 128 at the end. There's that 1 in there, so that's a 128. I won't worry too much about descriptions. I don't want to waste too much time here. So there's the first interface, sub-interface. Let's do the second one. 200. Encapsulation .1Q 200. Do the IP address, but guys, let's make sure we get it right. We need 129/25. So that's for our second sub-interface. IP address is 192.168.1.129. So there's that. So we got our first two. We can't forget the native 999. Now, guys, we don't need to set up an IP address here. We just need to encapsulate it and also mark it as native. So any traffic that comes in that's not tagged with a VLAN will come in through here. And guys, like I said, that might happen. That may happen where data comes in and it's not tagged in a VLAN. All right, so there's that, you guys. Let's just see what we've got. So let's go in here and let's set an IP address 192.168.1, and let's just go like 10 here. And guys, make sure we change that to 128. And then our default gateway 192.168.1.1, because we're on the 100 VLAN. So we're looking at that. So that one's there. So we got that PC set up, and let's just do the same thing here. 192. Oops, that's not a valid address, right? 192.168.1 dot, and we'll make it. I made that other one 10. Let's just make this one 20. 28. So 192.168.1.1. We want it to still have that same default gateway. Well, let's do some pinging. That's always a good way to do it, right? Ping 192.168.1.20. Nice. We got some good successful pings. Let's make sure we can get to one of the default gateways, our own default gateway. And we can. That's good. Let's see if we can get to the other default gateway on the router. We can. That's good. Hopefully you guys are still seeing me there on that end. All right, guys. So we've got an EtherChannel set up with a router on the stick. We got two hosts that are have static routing, static IP addresses set up. Now, let's go in here, and I want to just show you guys the DHCP setup. It's a real quick setup. You'd actually think it'd be a lot more than this, but it's not. Let's do the DHCP setup, and let's see if we can get it to work. We'll try it with this first subnet first, and then I don't know if we'll have time today, but maybe next time when we meet, we'll look at this other one. But let's set up this first one. So let me exit here. And guys, commands for setting up DHCP is IP DHCP, and what we're setting up, guys, is a pool. Let's set up a pool, and let's call it R1 clients. And guys, I'm just kind of relating it to here. You know, this is for our 100. This is for our VLAN 100. So any computer in VLAN 100 is going to reference this pool R1 clients. You guys, take notice how this changed to DHCP-config. I'm now configuring the DHCP server. The first thing we need to do is tell it what network it belongs to. That's always a good idea. So this belongs to 192.168.1, and here's the tricky part. It's not 1. We're telling it the actual network. That's 0. 255.255.255.128. Don't forget that. That's the actual network we're using. We need to tell it the default router. Now here is where we put the gateway. And then lastly, we give it a domain name, which for this one, let's just do hawking.edu. Guys, in a nutshell, that's most of the, there's a lot more to it, but we'll go through that another time. In a nutshell, that is the DHCP setup. We make a pool, we tell it what network it is, and what default router it's operating with, and what domain name it has, and that's pretty much it. Now, let's go into the IP configuration. Now, guys, I'm hoping that when I switch to DHCP, we will get an automatic IP address. So here we go. Let's go DHCP, and let's see what happens. And sure enough, there we go. Look at that. We were given 192.168.1.2 here. Let's do it on our other computer here. Let's do it this way. I'm going to show you. If I was on a real computer, guys, I would bring up the command prompt and go ipconfig /renew. So let's renew our IP configuration. Let's see what happens. Sure enough, 192.168.1.3. While I got a few minutes here, you guys, let me do something really quick. So sometimes I don't want to use all the addresses in my I don't want to use all the available addresses. Sometimes I want to set a few aside. So sometimes I do IP DHCP excluded addresses. So let's do this one, you guys. Let's do the excluded addresses. And I don't want it to use 192.168.1.1 all the way up to 192.168.1. And let's just pick a number 35. So I don't want to use the first 35 addresses. We're saving those 35 addresses for something else. Those are for the printers or something, or for the security cameras, or just for other things. We're just reserving those IP addresses. We don't want to use them. So let me hit enter there, and let me copy run start and save our configuration on our router. And guys, let's do this again here. Let's go IP config renew. So I was getting a 192.168.1.2 before. Let's see what we get now. I'm hoping our first address will probably be 36.36. Let's see what happens. Yeah, look at that, it worked. So there it is. 36 is the first used address that it's grabbing. Let's go over this other PC. Let's try it again. So we were getting a 1.3 before, and now we're getting 1.37. Now, I didn't set up, and maybe we'll do this another time, guys. I can set up another pool on my router for my second subnet. So any computers that connect into here that are on VLAN 200 will then get IP addresses that start in the, well, for this one, the first one it's going to get is 130 because it can't use 129. So the first one it's going to get is 130, and then it's going to number them from there. Okay.